Thanks everyone for joining my presentation today. And today we will give briefly overview about these commandments, tips and tricks that if you follow, you will secure your web applications. Just a short agenda. First, short introduction and short disclaimer from my side. Then we will go briefly through the commandments that I will speak. I will explain all of them in a form that every of the commandment has one practical example scenario. I will speak about some tools and I will give you some tool suggestions. Then we will move to the QA security maturity model. And finally, before we conclude the session, we will answer the most important question here: when to integrate these security testing checks. So let's begin. First, a little bit of a disclaimer. This presentation is intended only for educational purposes. So guys, even though this sounds very, very serious, please take it into consideration when you will test in unauthorized environments. Test in only authorized environments, so you will not face any consequences. Those are the 10 commandments that I will explain through the presentation. First, we will start with validating all user inputs. Then we will move to the strong authentication flows. We will say a couple of things about not trusting the client-server logic. We will pass through the security all APIs section. And we will move to one of my favorites here, testing against sensitive data exposure. The second part of the commandments are including tips and tricks regarding session management testing, testing against broken access controls, against error handling, and against file uploads. Finally, the final commandment or final tips and tricks will include something about automation and education your QA engineers or your company in general. So let's begin. The first one is validating all user inputs. This needs to be validated from every site, meaning both sites, client-server, client logic, and client-server validation, server-side, of course. And this will should prevent your web applications from cross-site scripting, SQL injections, and stuff like this. As an example of a scenario here is to verify that every submitted input from the user is properly handled. By every submitted user input, it means that everything that user will enter will have not consequences against your web application. This means that everything throughout your input fields, starting from the search boxes, like searching for items on your site, it will not have any bad input on your application. The second part is enforcing of strong authentication flows. This means that as a good QA engineers, you should secure your applications from testing your login forms, registration flows, and you should not be limited by this. This means that you should test your applications by testing the multi-factor authentication and or the reset password flows. This will give you more input where the user are stuck, where the user can do some malicious things, and where the user can have some bad intention in breaking your application. So, as the scenario flows and goes, this can be one of the examples of the scenarios. Test for weak password policies. For example, you should test if your web application accepts short passwords, passwords without any lower or any lowercase special characters, maybe some emojis and numbers, etc. This one, especially favorite to most of the audience out there, is do not trust client logic, meaning that you can bypass the validation with tools like Postman or even the DevTools inside some browser, and this can be very, very harmful. An example of this scenario here, it will be that the user cannot update the price of your items. So imagine you have an e-commerce site where you have some items listed by some price, and the user comes and opens the dev tools, tries to reduce the price from $100 to $1, and this is accepted. This is not, of course, logical, but some e-commerce outside unfortunately do not take this into consideration, and this can be do some serious damage on the business itself. Next, securing all APIs, checking from broken object level authorization, the BOLA, the #1 in the current OWASP top 10 project. So here, the users should not be, let's say, checking anything against, let's say, that is against the course policy, rate limiting, or even the authorization. I must say that, for example, rate limiting, if we take the scenario into consideration, that we should check and implement to limit the times, the number of times that can be executed per minute from the users. For example, verify that you will limit attempts, login attempts, not more than 10 times per minute or per user. Even that is a high number, but that's, of course, only an example. The next thing is, as I said previously, one of my personal favorite, testing against sensitive data exposure. This means that you should test everything against credentials, user passwords, usernames, payments info, or even secures that are exposed in the URLs. Everything of this needs to be encrypted. You can use variety of encryption methods, but always check if those things, like I mentioned, the credentials, payment info, etc., are encrypted and securely stored in your database. That being said, an example of scenario here, it will be, for example, log in with user 1 and try to grab the user 2 token, so you can try to escalate the permission here. For example, if you're logging with your user, try to grab the user token from your colleague and see what happens. Of course, if it's everything if it's properly implemented, the server should reject your attempt. Session management testing, even though we are not maybe aware, most of us are not aware, but this is one of the most important part, and that's why it's on this list. This includes, but it's not limited to, perform testing about validation of session expiration. For example, all we have here, it's 30 minutes talk, and we should reserve some time for Q&A session. The same goes with your application. What will happen if some period of time, for example, 30 minutes pass and the user do not have any activity? What will happen then? Will you automatically log in and log out the user, or you should keep the user logged in? The second thing here, it will be the logout behavior. What will happen? Simply put it like this. What will happen if the user logs out? Will you show some message where you will direct the user, or you will send some information about that can be very, very sensitive? And maybe some session hijacking attempts, like hijacking the session from one and to another user. I already mentioned the scenarios here, but of course we can double check the security token that is generated here. explicitly the way of security generating of the tokens, and verify what will happen when the token will be invalidated on logout, where the user will be redirected and what should happen with the token afterwards. Another thing and another commandment on the list is testing against the broken access protocol. Here, you should test everything about authorization and privilege perspective from both sides, horizontal and vertical escalation of the authorization. Authentication doesn't equal authorization, so you should try everything that is permitted with admin, maybe some moderator users, and even with the regular users. Of course, regular users should not have the same privilege as the admin user. Each access control should be carefully considered and carefully validated from each perspective and each rule that is like a business rule and rule in the system. An example of the scenario here, it will be that if you're logged in with a regular user, please verify that you cannot delete everything that is published by the admins or other users. A regular user can only have the read permission. Another commandment here that I mentioned and captured is testing against error handling. This means that the error handlers should be by default tested, but should be avoided the default values. What does this mean? This means that if something goes wrong in your application, you should properly handle and display a message. Avoid some stack traces, avoid some SQL dumps there, because this can confuse the user, but if the user have some more technical experience and technical knowledge, this can be used against you. So it's better to display some user-friendly short message instead of displaying some details from your database, for example. Like I mentioned, the scenario here, the user will check and validate if the user message is friendly, or more worse that can be happen here, if the message is some SQL, let's say, dump. Testing against file uploads includes checking everything that is related with the file uploading. That means the file extension should be checked. That means that the file sizes, of course, are important here, and some malicious extensions uploading via these files uploading testing. Take into consideration the following scenario. For example, if the candidates should apply for a job, for a job opening, by submitting their CV in which format? Of course, Word format, meaning docs format, docx, or PDF file. This is especially important because the users can implement or upload, in this case, some malicious files, and the files can be some scripts that can be executed later, and these malicious users, these malicious attempts can end up very badly for your web application. So if you have a form, please, that includes some file uploads, please look for proper business rules and then system accepted criteria. Last but not least, it's automate and educate. Here, there is no scenario, because as QA engineers, as companies, we always must commit to the latest trends, and the latest trends are including automation, meaning that shift left mindset, it should be active, and it should be taken in consideration from every perspective. Also, educate your QA engineers, so that your QA engineers can become your allies, best ally in the future when you need to propagate and spread the word about security awareness in your company. Last but not least, related to this commandment is to do this continuously. The period of continuity, it should be determined by you, but please do not take it into consideration and say that you will use and implement this once per year. That's some minimal requirement, but as my experience tells me, this should be implemented and practically followed more frequently. For example, once in a month or once in a quarter is more than sufficient to stay up to date with the latest trends and then to stay educate. When you have employees educate enough, they will the mistakes will be minimized. Next are the tool suggestions. Sorry. Here. Okay, the picture is not displaying. Sorry about the technical mistake here. Some of the tools are OWASP ZAP, Postman. Even you can use your dev tools and to ensure this testing is properly done. For example, in Postman, you can grab, as I said, the token from user 1, try to log in with user 2. Of course, this should be rejected by the server, and you should be verifying and validating this. One of the other tools that is most commonly used by most of the companies is the Burp Suite. This Burp Suite has paid and unpaid version. So feel free to download the free version, try to explore with it and see what scenarios, what things can be executed from the previous mentioned commandments. The security QA security majority model includes everything from the QA perspective, but it's related to the security. First, most of us is ignoring the security. Security is not a thing. We are here to test if the system meets the requirement, meaning if the system functions as is intended to. Next, QA starts some basic checks, security checks. After the functional requirements are met, or most of the functional requirements are developed and we verify that work perfectly, QA starts with some, should start with some basic security checks. This is a perfect time to know whether your web application is working securely or not. For example, if the credentials are stored as they should be encrypted in your database. Next thing, QA can lead the transformation. This means that the QA can follow the trends about shift left mindset and automate everything in the early stages. Meaning that the QA can automate scripts and do these checks in the previous level in an automated way. This will save us, of course, time and maybe future money. Of course, one of the other sets there is continuous education, and the need of the continuous education for the employees is required. Finally, the last step or the last level here from the QA security maturity model is that the security is for everyone. Not just the SecOps team, not just the QA team, but everyone, meaning from the people in the front desk to the people from the C-level executives. Everyone should pay attention about security, especially when something major comes up. In order to be resolved, this must be followed by everyone in the line. The most logical question here it will be when to integrate the security checks. So we have a couple of phases when this needs to be integrated. Of course, first thing during the planning, when the plans of the project starts, till writing the test plan in detail, then the security checks should be planned appropriately. Next, we have, during the automation, we can implement some test automated scripts that will check some basic, later maybe some advanced security checks. And of course, during the exploratory testing. Do not limit as a QA engineer, be creative, and explore everything about the tools there, their possibilities, and be creative in breaking the web applications, but only in authorized test environments in order to make sure that the web applications are safe as possible. So, to conclude this session, I would say that quality without security is half true. This means that the not implemented security will maybe end up bad about regarding your business. Security nowadays is not just a job for the security operation teams or the SecOps team. This should be performed, and it can be performed by the QA team, and then everyone should be aware about this. Encourage your QA in your company that can perform and learn more and more about cybersecurity. This means that the QA, besides performing the functional testing and some non-functional testing like the performance testing, they can also start learning and perform security checks. Start small. Do not implement all the commandments at once. Sprint by sprint, start to implement 2 or 3 commandments, and then when the commandments are passed, the tips and tricks are there, the QA team has all the scenarios that needed, make a full circle around that, and then implement everything. That means that you will act later baked. Real software vulnerabilities, unfortunately, nowadays are lurking behind the non-functional testing. And that means that if the functional requirements are met, that non-functional requirements should be also met. Most probably and always the security requirements. These are some references and resources that helped me for building this presentation. I hope they will be useful to you. Of course, the famous OWASP and their projects are there, and this open source security testing methodology manual that can tell you and learn a few tips about from this. Thank you very much. Questions?
Thank you, Zhivorad, for that amazing presentation. And as he mentioned, it's question time, guys. So I want to see a show of hands.
How do you usually test and verify for session hijacking, and what your, let's say, proposed tool that you would recommend for testing that kind of scenario?
Thank you. Wonderful and expected question. You can try to hijack attempt while your session is still open. Try to perform or grab that session from the browser, let's say, with another user. Or if that session is nearing the end, what will happen when passes in full? What should happen when the session passes if the next user comes? Should the next user see the entries by the previous user, for example?
Do we have other questions, guys? Just a sec.
So you mentioned using ZEP, and I want to ask, do you use it in your company? Also, I was using it, and at start everything was right, but then it started not passing the security checks for the company, so I cannot use the desktop version, the desktop application. The Docker commands still work, but the reports are not as detailed. do you have the same problem or?
Yep, OWASP, unfortunately, open source has own limits, and obviously you face one of the limit, or maybe a couple of the limits. Of course, you can always combine these things with some other reporting tools, and to improve your, let's say, reporting. One other thing is here that I can add and suggest to try Burp Suite. Burp Suite has some community edition. This is free. It's not the enterprise that you must pay some licenses, and try to compare both. If these are not meet your requirements or your needs for testing security checks, try to find some other libraries, of course. And for the end, I will not limit myself always to one application, and I will not rely to one application, because one application has disadvantages. That means that these disadvantages are advantages for the another two. So please try combine them in order to have more, let's say, structured and better results there.
Any other questions, guys? Show of hands. Going once, going twice. Okay then, another big round of applause for Zhivorad.